Good morning, everybody. Welcome once again to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. How are you, Matthew?
Not very good.
It was a long night last night for Sooner fans. Crazy game. Great game.
5 degrees outside.
Yeah.
Sooners lost. The jackpots all got canceled because of the cold weather.
It's all right. It was a great game.
But other than that, I'm doing great.
Great game.
Oh, my back went out.
You're a mess, man.
But I'm all back together now.
You're not getting 2018 off to a good start here.
I'm all back together now. Today has been a glorious day, and glad to be back in studio for the first show of 2018. Got a lot of good feedback for our best of show that we did to wrap up 2017.
Yeah.
Kind of going back forgot all the good times that me and you had behind the microphones here. But hopefully this is the start of another productive and fun year in the BTL studios and on the various locations that the Elite Series and other ventures will take us.
Yes, so a lot to talk about. Hopefully we're going to have Mr. Boyd Duckett on live via Skype. I talked to him yesterday. I talked to him last night. We were feverishly texting back and forth during the OU game and during the Alabama game.
See, I didn't watch the Alabama game. I turned the TV off after the OU game and I went to bed.
That's kind of a I kind of understand it, but that's kind of a non-college football fan doing that.
That's a real
I'm
serious college
going to take my ball and go home and just go
to bed. I
watched
the 2-minute highlights of that game.
I was shocked by the outcome of that game.
Yeah,
I really was.
A little one-sided there after the first half based on the highlights that I saw.
Yeah. What do you think about Baker Mayfield crying at the press conference?
I'm all in for it. I think that shows his true commitment and character that he had for the program, the heart and soul that he put in during his 3 years as an Oklahoma Sooner. And, I wish we saw more emotion in fishing that we do in other sports. It seems to me, and you lead the charge, and Dave is not a fan of it either, that crying in bass fishing is not accepted. It seems like it's, you just won a tournament, get over it. But I am of the opposite opinion that I think there needs to be more emotion. Both sensitive. Of the anger and the sense of accomplishment. I mean, there's a lot that goes into a tournament. When you saw what happened with Timmy Horton this year and with John Murray this year, I mean, you're talking decades in the making for that one moment. And if they want to shed a tear during that, if they want to recall all of the trials and tribulations that led to their triumph, then who are you to put a check mark next to their name for shedding a tear?
Do you think Gary Klein would ever shed a tear if he ever won a Classic or even an Elite Series event?
Absolutely.
All the years and all the times that the man is qualified for the Classic and he finally gets it done,
I think he would.
And a tear suddenly starts to slide down his cheek.
I think he would be emotional.
He would be enormously fired up. I don't know about crying. He might cry. I don't know. I think the great Tim Tucker said that statement a long time ago. There's no crying in bass fishing.
Well,
this
is
that a long time
after
ago.
The tournament. This is upon reflection, upon getting your hands on the blue trophy or the classic trophy or whatever it is that you milestone that you reached or did not reach.
Yeah.
I'm all about the emotion.
All right. Well, hopefully we'll talk to Mr. Duckett about
He's
emotions.
not going to be crying because his Tide is back in the national championship.
Dude, he was feverishly texting last night.
You think that the Duckster had a blowout New Year's Eve bash at the compound?
No, I think he was pretty chill. I think he was pretty laid back. I know he wants to go to the national championship game now. I know a lot of people in Alabama. Dude, it's the HFA for Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I was trying to remember if that's the first time that a national championship game has been played in the university's home state. Has there not
Maybe
been Miami.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. A Florida deal, and definitely a California deal. Didn't USC win the national championship in the Rose Bowl?
I don't know. I don't remember.
I believe those would be some California teams.
I would put money on Miami. So we will see what Mr. Duckett has to say. Hopefully here in a few minutes. He has not made it to the office yet. I did call and check on him. So as soon as he gets plugged into his laptop and we get Skype cranked up, we will go to him. Some interesting stuff that took place in the bass fishing world. I don't know if you saw this. A guy that we don't really talk about a lot, but a guy that's been doing it for a number of years, talking about Bill Lowen Did you see the Instagram post or tweet or whatever it was? I don't know what it was.
I did not.
On Mr. Lowen.
This is news to me. Break it to me.
Really? You don't know?
No, I don't.
He is with Express Boats now.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
That seems like a perfect fit.
A little river rat guy, kind of, likes to get in there and get in the skinny water, get down and dirty. Yeah, he's going to be with Express.
Interesting.
Still with Yamaha, though.
Mm-hmm. You have to look through the schedule and see. We went through that last year. Obviously, he's probably running a 21-foot aluminum.
Yeah.
Went through that last year with Skylar Hamilton, previously the first angler, I believe, on the Elite Series who had ran an aluminum the entire season, or attempted to, was Rick Clunn. And he also did that with like a DV.
Yeah.
And I think halfway through he went back to, that was before the rule. Obviously,
Right.
John Cox over on FLW has won a number of trophies out of the aluminum, but now you have 2 on the Elite Series with Skylar running it, and it'll be interesting to see if the schedule is conducive for Bill to get into some skinny water and do what he does.
I think he's really the first guy to come out and say, hey, I'm making this change, through social media this year. Not ever. I mean, guys have done it over the years, but I think he's the first guy this year to announce the change in 2018, and he actually did it on New Year's Day, I believe. So I will say
yesterday.
this. Yeah, I will say this. A major change is going to be announced, I'd say within the next 2 weeks.
Okay, I think I know where you're going with
one
this.
angler. I think it's going to shock a lot of people. I think it's going to, I don't know, it's kind of going to set the tone for the season that this guy's going to have.
Is Ike fishing out of a kayak this year? Is that no, that wasn't
that
it?
would be news.
Oh, sorry, I was afraid I didn't want to break that prematurely.
That would be huge news if that was the case. But no, it's not Ike and Ellie fishing out of a wrapped kayak.
It'll be interesting to see. Skylar had a rough year. Granted, he's 23 years old, 22 years old. It was his first year on the Elite Series. I expect him to have a better year, but Lowen goes out, has some success there. We've seen Odd. He's won the Open on it. We had the big tunnel hell debate earlier this year, and it would be interesting to see if it was cyclical to where you start seeing these guys going back to smaller vessels, perhaps.
All right. Well, I just happen to have. Let's see here. I think I have the list in this book right here. Let's just kind of run through them. Would the aluminum guys have an advantage on the schedule this year? First one, Lake Martin.
I wouldn't think so. I think
Probably
I would be cold touching the rim of that boat.
Yeah. The Bassmaster Classic. Neither one of them made it, did it? Did Lowen make it?
I'm sure Bill might have made it. Maybe not.
I think he had a good year.
I don't know.
You might look that one up real quick. Nah, I would say nah. No advantage. All right, so we roll into Sabine River. Yes.
Although they cannot, the Sabine River, they cannot fish any Louisiana waters.
I would still say yes.
He would have to get into some Texas backwaters. And then also the long runs, too, if he does that. But, yeah, definitely, the Sabine, there's areas he could reach in an aluminum that other anglers couldn't.
Grand Lake.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Especially that time of the year, there could be some interesting river runs that we see Bill Lowen make.
Yeah. Up the Neosho.
Would you say that would depend on whether, depending on the spawn?
Rain.
The rain and the spawn as to how effective that could be. But if it sets up, I would say he would have a massive advantage. He might be one of the favorites on Grand Lake if the conditions set up correctly.
Yeah. A lot of that, so much weather-related on that. Kentucky Lake.
I don't know. I mean, possibly. Not really.
Nah, it's going to be a big-time ledge thing. I would say no.
What time of the year is that, in May?
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say no on that.
Bass Fest, Lake Travis.
I don't know anything about Lake Travis.
No.
Based on what I saw the FLW Tour did, no.
I would say no. Mississippi River.
Yes.
At La Crosse.
Absolutely.
100%. The South Dakota event.
Who knows?
I don't even know how to say that.
Based on the guys, based on the guys that I have talked to on that is not going to be a skinny water, backwater deal.
That's a smallmouth gig, right?
It is.
Yeah.
That's the more I talk to guys about their pre-practices up there, the more interesting that stop gets to me.
How do you say the name of that lake?
I don't know.
Oath? Oath? There's no T in there.
Oaha.
I don't know. Maybe we could call Frey Lake.
Yeah.
Text your buddy Fralick.
Well, yeah, he'll be in high demand for that one.
Yeah. And then Chesapeake.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I agree with that. And then St. Lawrence River.
Who knows?
Maybe. That's a maybe.
Yeah, that's a maybe. We've seen guys do top 12s on largies there, but remember this year?
4 events?
Yeah, half the schedule.
They may have an advantage because of the fact that they're an aluminum boat.
And based on it, I was in that aluminum that Skylar ran this past year. I don't feel like they're in a disadvantage.
Yeah.
You know, on the tournaments where it's not going to be an advantage to them, I don't feel like it's a massive disadvantage.
No, that's a good point. Good point. What was that?
I don't know. Something flickered.
That was weird.
What flickered?
I have no idea.
Rolling?
That was weird. Yeah, we're still all good.
Your monitor is going out there, Jeffries. Is that a new monitor, by the way?
No. I had to switch the other one.
Oh, you had to switch the new monitor.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
All right. Nothing's beeping or flashing at us. That's a good sign.
I don't know. We have to mention, the 25 people that were part of the exclusive viewing of the brand new one-on-one feature.
Explain it a little bit, exactly what it was, because really you had teased it, but we haven't talked about it on BTL.
And we're going to talk about it
and
now.
then for the iTunes
and
listeners.
I'm still waiting. I'm looking over at the other monitor to make sure that Mr. Duckett is not checked in yet, and he is not checked in yet.
Okay.
So I will keep my eye on that. Basically, we came up with a concept to be able to put together a live structured format where one angler competes against another angler, and the audience, the viewership, can actually watch this competitive environment take place live on the water. They're in their own boat. They're weighing in the fish MLF style. So we wanted to do a actual competition to showcase this before we actually roll out these matches that we have. So the structure of the event is they fish 2 halves, 90-minute halves, running clock. In between the halves, there is a 15-minute halftime to where they can
gather their thoughts, run to a new. They don't have to go back to the starting spot.
No, it's just like a game.
Yeah.
15-minute halftime.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna
analyze,
gather my thoughts,
but it's one-on-one.
It's
split
one-on-one.
screen live.
Right, live from the water.
So you watch both anglers for 3 hours.
So we
total.
did Sean Goodwin and Bradley Hallman. Bradley Hallman, current FLW Tour, former Elite Series guy.
Won FLW Tour over $500,000 in career earnings.
And we did Sean Goodwin, who has a BFL All-American win. Has
been to the All-American a couple times.
For 20 plus years.
I think he's over $250,000 with FLW.
Yes, 260,000.
Yeah, that's over $250,000.
And that's only fishing BFLs.
Yeah, and he had a top 10 in the Central Opens this year for bass.
Yeah. His best finish, though, was, and I actually told a little bit of this story, back in 1998, he was fishing at Lake of the Ozarks. It was freezing. It was miserable, nasty, ice, snow, and he finished second throwing a buzzbait. It's miserable.
It seems to be a popular thing to do when it's snowing early in the year in the Ozarks.
Yeah, so anyway, what we did, these guys, they went at it. They went at it on Lake Thunderbird, a very small lake in the Oklahoma City metropolitan area, and it was really cool. I mean, we feel very good about the technology. The feedback from the 25 people has been outstanding.
And what you did was you sent an email, or you put a request out on Bass Talk Live, actually, to kind of be a part of the private viewing of this. So, yeah, got some good feedback from that.
Great feedback.
I think it went well. Brad caught a couple big fish. Goodwin got on the board. I'm excited to see where this goes into the 2018 season, and it's unique. It's very unique in that it's something that hasn't been done in this format live before.
Right. There's
other things that are similar.
Competitions that are similar, and we're doing it MLF style where
the catchway release.
Yeah.
It is a competition like the as far as Ultimate Match, but it's totally different because they're in their own boats. They don't know what the other guy's doing.
Yeah.
They're in their comfort zone.
Yeah.
And
then they have a limited amount of time to make things happen. Now, when we roll this out with some pretty cool guys that are going to get involved.
Now we're doing some, we've been able to get some strategic matchups, which you can't.
Yes.
You kind of teased it on the Bass Zone page.
Yes.
I mean, if you're an astute, you might have teased it a little too much. If you're an
It's
astute,
pretty blurred.
I don't know. I think it's pretty.
It's pretty blurred.
Okay. Maybe I'm just maybe I just
been
have
around it
eagle
too.
eyes.
You're
I've been
knee-deep
around it
into
too
it.
much. But
Yeah.
there's going to be a series of these one-on-one battles with perhaps you've heard of several of the anglers competing in it.
Perhaps.
And when is that going to start? The first
February.
one is going to be in February.
Yeah.
It's going to run all the way through October.
Yeah. Yeah.
About one a month. One or two. Just
Maybe we're going to do, I would say, 6 to 8 of these events in 2018.
cool.
So very, very excited. And folks, here's the bottom line. It's technology. All right. Are things going to happen? Are there going to be challenges? Yes. But we are working very, very hard to get it as dialed in as we could. And I mean, you did a great job with the camera. I know it was cold. Hey, I was really happy for these guys that they actually caught fish because it was miserable outside.
Well, I was on my back. Okay, I got to give it up to the camera guys who shoot the FLW live
and the Elite
and
Series.
the Bass live
Yeah.
footage and all that, because I've done that stuff before for limited amount of times. I've probably got hundreds and hundreds of hours of stuff that I've recorded on
Yeah.
but these are the cameras we're using here are bigger cameras. You hold them on your shoulder, and it was the first time that for 3+ hours I had held a camera on my shoulder where I had to have the shot in frame, had everything all hooked up, and I was out. I was done for about 2 days after we filmed it. We did it on Thursday and up until Sunday. Even going into I was out of it, on my back, had to chiropractic
I think
appointments,
part of the reason for
muscle
that
spasms, the whole 9
you're
yards.
You're using muscles that you just normally don't
Absolutely.
use.
So I am on the lower back muscle regiment right now
Yeah.
to be
Are you
ready
doing better?
to go.
You look better. You look like
I
you're getting
feel
around a little bit.
I feel a lot better.
Did you go to the minor ER? Is that what you did?
Yeah, just made sure, but I could put my hand behind my back and feel the muscles on the side and literally feel them contracting and expanding.
Really?
Oh, it was bad. It was very bad, Mark. But we got through it and we got it done. So how's the hunt for Boyd Duckett?
Working
going?
on it. He's still not online yet, so I'm working on it. We'll get to it. If not, hey, we'll have him on Thursday or whatever. We'll just
That'll work.
We'll keep going.
Also had a request, and I think now that the hunting season is it kind of winding down?
They're still killing
more
stuff.
Had a request to get Jason Christie on the show.
Okay.
Early in January, so I said, he's about a 1 in 10 shot that he's not on the water or on the woods, but during this super cold streak in the next couple weeks, I want to get Jason on the horn.
We'll work on that. I want to talk a little bit, and I want to talk to Duckett about this, but we'll go ahead and kind of get it started here. With all the hype that was building up to the Rose Bowl and to the Sugar Bowl with this whole national championship thing, a lot of discussion about how they were just setting up everything was going to happen for an Oklahoma versus Clemson matchup. With the way that things are developing and the way that the HFA has taken place really over the past 2 years on the Elite Series and the FLW, are things setting up for the 2018 Classic to just go, here, Casey Ashley, here you go. Let's just go ahead and hand the trophy to you?
I do not believe so, because the time of year that it is not going to be a quote-unquote winter tournament like it was. Remember the first one that Alton won was in 2008, and Casey Ashley was a young guy then.
Yeah.
Didn't have a lot of experience under his belt. We've seen what he's done there with FLW Tour win on Hartwell, with the Classic, with Elite Series wins. It was a major home field advantage for him when he won in 15 because it was so cold. And he knew where those fish lived and wintered. And if you're not familiar with Hartwell, you talk about all those guts and the timber lines and where the bluebacks hang out. And I mean, you can know what to do, but if you're not on the right deal, it's insane, because there's a lot of big fish that group up in certain areas out there.
Yeah.
Now at this time of year, depending on how the weather is, I think it's going to be a lot more wide open, because you're going to have a lot of fish that are transitioning to that pre-spawn phase. that late in March.
Yeah.
I think it's going to open it up a lot more for, you know, you're going to have the jerkbait guys and the crankbait guys and the jig guys and the underspin guys and the swim bait guys and the drop shot guys.
But who has more experience than Casey Ashley on that body of water when that phase is taking place? Not very many guys.
There's Duckett calling. No, you're right. But I just feel like there's more guys who have experience during that phase period across the country who will be able to, I guess, pattern or find those fish more easily than they could in the wintertime, where you either find them or you don't. You know what I'm saying?
Got it.
And Casey Ashley knew where to find them then. But I think there's going to be a lot more guys who are going to have access to those 3.5 to 4 pound spots in largemouth than there was in 2015 when Casey Ashley methodically picked it apart and saved his best for last.
Right. We're gonna get into Duckett with that. I'd like to know his thoughts on that. So we actually have him.
I also want to hit him up
Sky.
with my comparison that I hit you with before the show
What is that?
between the OU defense and a piece of equipment that you use in tournament fishing. Did you think that was a fair comparison?
We'll ask him about that.
Okay.
All right, let's take a break. Come back with Boyd Duckett live via Skype right here, 2018. Hopefully everybody had a safe new year. We'll be right back after this.
The most versatile fishing machine on Earth. Unparalleled resolution and clarity, with more agility, lightning speed, and brute strength. HDS Carbon takes rapid response performance and screen technology to an all-new level. Maximized power, maximized visibility. See Structure Scan 3D, new dual chirp sonar, new live network sonar, and more mapping options, all at the same time and faster than ever before.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4 strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
My rods look different because they are different. Every rod is built by the pros and for the pros. When you pick up a White Duckett fishing rod, you're getting a cutting-edge rod, one that's truly pro-driven, with the actions you need for every bait category you fish. I put my name on it. It's my promise to build you a great rod you can count on.
Duckett Fishing, Micro Magic, Macro Magic, or White Ice.
Try them, they work.
Gill that I've used for the last 5 years has been a far superior product than anything else on the market.
The main thing that's really important to me is me being dry. I've been wearing gill suits now for 3 years and never once have I gotten wet.
The Lorentz Elite 7 Ti. Why does it lead the pack? It's simple. More bang for your buck. Use Elite 7 Ti with the all-new Total Scan transducer, and you get all of your sonar from a single transducer install. That's broadband sounder, chirp sonar, side scan, and down scan imaging from one transducer. Now that's something to chirp about. Elite 7 Ti. Premium features have never been so affordable.
I'm looking for signs before practice even starts. Crossing the bridge, I'm checking for current. Is the lake up or down? What's my watercolor? Bird activity tells me where the shad are before I ever launch my boat. Sometimes the best things hit me right in the face.
The pesky biffle bugs. There's always a hatch on your lake. Made in America by Jean LaRue Lures.
Dang bug juice, it's everywhere.
When I talk about sunline,
I think of one word: confidence.
Sunline FX2 is what I use for all of my frogging and flipping.
S61 braid, which braid plays a big part in fishing line.
Shooter, I'm going to use in those close quarter deals like flipping and pitching.
One of my favorite techniques in fishing the tournament trail is to fish offshore ledges.
We have taken the questions out of the equation.
Take my word for it. It works. It works, dude.
All right, we are back. Mark and Matt in studio. And, man, is it cold outside. Gee.
We're talking single digits.
Really, really cold. Wonder if it's that cold in Alabama.
No. Because they're celebrating. They're burning couches.
All right, let's see if this works. Let's see. Boyd, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me this
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. How about that?
That's freaking awesome, right? Yeah. Technology is great when it works. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I was at an Alabama party till 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm a little slow today.
I imagine that. Well, it always helps if you test this stuff out before we go live. So it is what it is. We're going to roll with it. Hopefully you got some time because we have several things to talk to you about, both on the fishing perspective and on the football perspective. So a great game last night. I want to talk a little football and turn it in to bass fishing. I know we were texting while the OU game was taking place, but you talk about two different games in two different halves. It was like you were going out there and on day one, you just barely squeaked by a limit. And then on day two, you went out there and caught 26 pounds.
Yeah, that sounds like my standard tournament, doesn't it? That's the way I fish. Yeah. Not 9 pounds to 21 pounds.
It's crazy.
That Oklahoma game was a nail. Man, I was so worn out after watching Oklahoma, Georgia, because I love college football, all of it. And it was so emotional to ride through that. I needed like a 30-minute break before the Alabama game started. I mean, I was just done. I was spent. What a game. I can't imagine having to play in it. It wore me out, from the couch.
Yeah. Now, Matt and I talked about this. Is there any room for crying in football? Come on, man.
No, it's football is real life. And one of the things I like about football, and I use the comparison a lot in my businesses when I talk to managers and people that I want to understand, real life in business is football. And that is, it doesn't make any difference how big they were, if the field was wet. If you're paid to carry the ball down the field, if you can't get it down the field, you failed. Effort doesn't pay anything in real life. It does in kids soccer, but it does not in real life. And it just like it does it in business. So you either move the ball down the field or you don't. So that's the reality of football, and that's the reality of real life.
All right. Now, a lot of experts were saying, hey, this is setting up for a Clemson versus Oklahoma national championship game, and neither team ended up making it to the national championship. Earlier, I asked Matt, I said, can you compare this to the Classic this year with Casey Ashley? Is there anybody else that could be more favorite or have higher expectations in winning the Classic with his experience, obviously with his knowledge of the lake? Is that kind of a good comparison on what people are kind of going to look at Casey going into this Classic in 2018?
Yeah, it's why they still have to play the games. All of us are pundits before it starts, whether it's a bass tournament, basketball, football, we play it out before it starts. But, I have said this many times. The home field advantage in today's bass fishing, today's sport of bass fishing, because everybody out there on the Elite Series can find them and catch them. It's not like it was once. And the real home field advantage is adversity. That's what you need. That's what I had in 2007 at Lay Lake. I had adversity. I had an unprecedented cold front. We had frozen bays of water at Lay Lake, which is never ever happens. And so I had an advantage. I knew where they would be, and the other guys couldn't catch up to that. I got to use my advantage. If we go to Lay Lake and the fish are biting, if we go anywhere in the country, you've seen this over and over. If the fish are biting, there's no advantage. If you want an advantage, it's when they're not biting. That's when the local guy's going to beat your brains out. And so Casey last year also had the perfect storm, year before last, had the perfect storm because it was horrible. It was cold and the fish were not biting. And that gives Casey and a few other locals that knew the lake well big advantages. If you come to Gunnersville and it's horrible, whatever happens, they take 10 feet of water out, it's the coldest it's ever been, anything crazy, then those of us that are here have a huge advantage. So that's kind of what played out. And I think that's what you're going to see. If the fish are biting at Hartwell and it's later this time, no reason to believe it's going to be as cold as it is, Casey's advantage gets erased.
So
hang on. I have one quick question, and then Matt, you can jump in there. Do you still have that rattle trap that you used to win the Classic? Is it there in your office?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to see it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in my trophy room. My trophy case. I'll run over here and get it.
All right. I wonder if a lot of guys are like that have won the Classic.
Well, he caught the winning fish flipping.
Yeah.
And the majority of his fish on a trap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
There it is.
I haven't got to pull these out. That, let me get it up there. That is the trap that set me up and allowed me to flip all day, which nobody else was doing because the water was about 39 degrees.
Right.
That is what caught. I got 2 bites a day flipping that, and that's what won the Classic.
Is that just a regular offset, round bend offset hook that you're flipping with?
Yeah.
Huh. You still use that when you flip? That style of hook, or if you're not a big straight shank or super line or EWG, you just like the straight up?
Yep.
That looks like it's. Did you snell a regular offset round bend? Is what it looks like.
No, that's
regular?
That's an owner wide gap, but it's a standard O'Shaughnessy design.
Okay.
That's cool.
But I flip with that hook. That for me. You don't miss any fish with that hook design. The EWGs, the standard, HP style hook, the EWGs, I miss some fish with those sometimes, and you never miss them. The number one hook, I don't care if you're in 30 foot of water with a 1/0 or flipping braid with a 6/0. The standard of Shaughnessy design hook will hook more. The hookup ratio is better than, in my opinion, and several of us. Ask Aaron Martins, it hooks them.
Why?
Hooks them all, and that's what I want to do is hook them.
Why? Now, I know why you want to hook them. Why does it hook them better?
The design of the hook turns quicker. What happens with those EWGs is that hook has to bounce and turn, and it's wider, and so you have a small percentage of the time that hook can't make the turn to hook the fish. It bounces out of their mouth. That O'Shaughnessy design, that old original design, turns very quickly, and its hookup ratio is the best of all hook designs.
So why do you think more guys don't use that? I mean, I know guys use it, but when you look at the average guy's tackle box, you're going to see the EWG, the Superline hooks.
They get hung up in strength, and they don't make hooks in this standard design as strong. They don't have an EWG O'Shaughnessy, or a thick double wide triple X or whatever, and they just believe they need all that strength. But that's a misnomer in my opinion, because the hardest thing in bass fishing is not landing a bass. Okay, it's getting a bite, it's hooking a bass. So when I teach seminars about how to win bass tournaments, the number one thing you have to do is get bites. People get hung up on landing them. Same thing. I'm in a rod and reel manufacturing business. Everybody wants to buy 7.0, heavies and 7.6 and 7.10X heavies. and you see us on tour catch a lot of fish on 8-pound line and a spinner rod, because we want that, because we have to get a bite. You have to get the bite first. And if you get the bite, you can win. And so, I stay focused on whatever it takes to hook a fish, get a bite, and hook a fish. And then I'll fight the other end of it because I just don't lose that many. Don't pull hard. You won't lose them.
There you go.
That's it.
That got in depth there. That was unexpected. I like it.
All right, Matt. What you got?
Well, no, I was just going to say, you're not, unfortunately, not in this upcoming Classic on Hartwell. You're talking a little bit about it, just like the Sooners are not in the national championship football game. Are you one of the guys who will, and I know you'll be busy during the show at the Classic and all that, but are you one of the guys who will still follow the tournament, even though you're not in it? Obviously, you'd be following if you were. But you see what I'm saying there? I know I talked to some guys who are like, you know what? I pretend like the Classic doesn't even exist when I don't make it because it pisses me off so bad that I had a bad year the previous year. And other guys who follow it. Where do you fall on that spectrum? As will you be watching all the updates and everything, or will you just kind of go do your business thing in the Duckett fishing booth and find out who won when someone said, hey, did you hear X angler won?
Because of my work schedule, I am so busy at the Classic, I don't follow it at all. I just don't have time, literally don't have time. I guess I could cut out part of my workload and choose to follow it, but I don't. I just work. And at the end of the day, I'm very interested in it. I love bass fishing as a fan and as a tournament angler. I love bass fishing, but I just don't have time at the Classic to follow it. So at the end of the day, somebody says, hey, man, so-and-so's leading. Cool.
Weren't you talking, Mark, didn't you have an interesting experience in 2013 in Grand with two anglers who were right there in 2012?
I don't
remember. You were there, was it Vincent and Poche, who didn't want to watch the weigh-in? Was it in 2013 after they came so close in 2012?
Okay.
Remember? I remember you telling me that story. You were in one of the booths because you were working on Bass Zone stuff, and they say, man, the weigh-in's about to start. And
no, I don't want any part of that.
Yep.
Hey, I understand that because, we're competitors and we all believe we belong. And every year the Classic gets harder, it seems like, and the field gets harder on the Elite Series. And, there's only 35 guys or whatever number it turns out to be, 32, that make it. And so you end up with 70 phenomenal fishermen. People don't put that in perspective. There's 70 guys that are freaking sticks, man, that don't make the Bassmaster Classic every year. But we all believe we should be there. We certainly want to be there, and it hurts not to be there. That's just the truth. So I understand, man. Sometimes it's easier just to let it go by. I missed the Classic at Gunnersville by 1 point. That was the worst feeling ever, by 1 point. Then on top of that, all my buddies stay at my house during all the practice. I became a boat boy. Okay, I'm taking their boats out. I'm making them sandwiches. Dean Rojas and Kelly Jordan and Van Dam and Gary Klein. And I don't know, I had 6 or 8 of the guys staying at my house. And it was just miserable.
And you can make a good sandwich.
It was horrible. And I just, I didn't know what else to do, so I just worked, man. I did what I felt like I could. I helped them all. I was the water boy, man. And I missed it by 1 point on my home lake. Come on.
Wow. All right, let's talk a little bit about 2018. And I'm going to throw this back to Alabama once again. A lot of people said Alabama just not going to get it done. They came out and absolutely rammed it down Clemson's throat. They totally dominated a good portion of that game last night and really performed at a level that a lot of people didn't think that Alabama was going to perform at. And I know they're Alabama. I get it. The tradition, the powerhouse, and all that and everything. But everybody was on the Clemson bandwagon. And there were a lot of comments from people that said Alabama played angry just to kind of shove it back in all the naysayers' faces that said, hey, we're Alabama, by gosh. We're going to make it to the national championship, and we're going to kick the crap out of Clemson. Is that a way that you might fish this year, Boyd, because of the lack of performance in 2017? Because there might be a few people out there that are saying, oh, well, he's got this and he's knee deep in his business and, he's just going to kind of motor along a little bit. Or does that motivate you to say, hey, look, guys, I'm going to come out swinging and I'm absolutely going to have one of the best years I've had?
Yeah, defeat is always been the greatest motivator, no matter what you do. Nobody that is competitive in any sport or any working environment likes to get beat. So finding a way to turn that into positive momentum, because so much of our sport, like all of them, I guess, but definitely our sport, is momentum. It's mental momentum. It's getting that, Matt and I've talked about it. We've talked about it on this show over and over.
Yeah.
It's about catching that groove and making that happen. And so that fire, when you see these young guys that catch them with half the experience of the veterans, it's because they have that fire that makes them roll. And they build on that momentum. And so really, I guess what I'm saying is they have lesser talent, not taken away, but I'm giving you facts here. They have lesser talent and they beat everybody with that because they are motivated. There's something about that mental motivation that makes you catch fish, win basketball games, or win football games. Jalen Hurts, this was one of the greatest stories. He kept on his screensaver of his phone.
Yeah.
Clemson holding the trophy last year, all year. So he stared at that and used that for motivation. And that's, that's phenomenal, man. That's what it takes. That's what champions do. They turn everything into a positive motivation. You've watched Van Dam do that in our sport more than once.
So how motivated are you for 2018?
I'm way more motivated than I was last year, simply because when you get stomped, you want to do a better job. I've already been to Martin and practiced. I didn't have very good practice, but I went down there and I put the time in. I've spent a lot of time in my garage working on my tackle. It's just something that works for me. If I can get into that and kind of get submersed in it, it helps me. I've spent a lot of time on the water this year, which I normally don't during the off season on Guntersville, just to keep catching them, to keep my confidence level high. So I feel already that I'm more motivated this year than I was last year. It's hard for me to balance all the things that I have going. I got some big real estate projects going right now that are really taking a ton of my time. I'll still be time starved this upcoming tour season. I won't be able to do the things that I'd like to be able to do. But if I could keep that edge of motivation and that burn, that's the hard thing, man. When you've done it and you've done it over and over, some of these guys that continue to stay on top in our sport, I wonder sometimes where they reach inside to find that burning motivation that lets them perform. It has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with drive. And I wonder, where they rekindle that drive. There has to be something to make that happen.
Who do you think the angler is who has kept that drive the longest in his whole career? I mean, the guy that comes to me, obviously, is Gary Klein. And I've been in the boat with him still. And you look at his results, they're up and down. It's been a while that he's won, but he still seems to have that drive after 40 years. Is that who comes to your mind? Is there another veteran who's been able to maintain it, and that the other veterans like you look and go, man, it's amazing the drive that he's been able to maintain even through XYZ accomplishments and throughout his career?
Yeah, Gary is a real he's a class act, number one, as a tournament angler, but he's a great example of how you continue to do it right. Gary prepares well. Gary puts in the work and does the practice. Somehow he manages to stay motivated, like you say, and he's done it for 40 years, man. I mean, it's amazing that he can reach inside and find that. So, yeah, that's a great example. Klein it has a lot to be proud of for the effort it takes to stay motivated.
All right, we're about 6 weeks away, I think, from Lake Martin. What are your thoughts on Lake Martin, Boyd?
Lake Martin has changed some. I fished there in the 90s when I was fishing, open tournaments around the state with my partner. And, there's this introduction of blueback herring that's kind of changed Lake Martin. I haven't been on it. I think I did an on the day on the lake deal with Bassmaster sometime like 06 or 07 or something. But prior to that, I hadn't fished in competition since 02. It's been 15 years since I very seriously fished the lake, and it's changed a lot. I'll tell you that. I went down and I was disappointed. I went down on my practice, and I'd won a bunch of money at Lake Martin now because I fished over there a lot and knew the lake well. But like all the lakes that the bluebacks get in, it changes it greatly. So I was disappointed that it fishes so differently than it used to.
Do you think the guys who are blueback guys who live around those lakes, even if they're from a different part of the country, are going to have an advantage then going into Lake Martin? I mean, is a blueback lake or?
Yeah, understanding how what that does to the bass and how they operate and relate to the bluebacks will be a big advantage. Those guys that have those techniques and have the confidence, it takes confidence to fish correctly in those blueback lakes, and because you feel like you're in the middle of the ocean, but it's that those guys are going to do well.
So we could see an Ashley back to back.
Yeah, he could.
I think it's Kelly J. I think
Yeah.
he's the guy down there. Is that not true, Boyd? I mean, he lives
so.
Right on the lake.
Yeah, I think he'll be really, really strong there, and it's Martin's not a big weight lake, and even though the spot. Well, let me back up. Through all the years that I fished it, Martin was not a big weight lake. Before I went down and practiced, I would say I was going to say 10 and a half a day would make the 50, just as a prediction. 12 and a half would make the 12, and 14 and a half would win it. I mean, because that's all it took at Martin. Now, that may stretch a little because these bluebacks have made the spots bigger than they used to be. And that's going to be a factor. So those weights may bump up because these spots are, even though they're harder to catch, they're bigger.
Okay.
I watched Smith Lake go through it. Smith Lake is a blueback lake now, and it's a phenomenal fishery, but it's completely different than when I lived in Nashville in the 80s. I used to go down and fish tournaments on Smith Lake. Started fishing it, gosh, man, way back when the Jerry Rhines Fisherman's Bass Circuit existed.
Oh, yeah.
He always started there. And the spots were all on the bottom back in the day. They were on the bottom somewhere. You could find them. And that goes back to the early 80s. I think the first one I fished there was like 81 or 82. But that lake is a completely different fishery than it used to be. Good, and it's really good, but it's very different.
You've been fishing a long time. I'm going to just take gobies out of this equation because that's the obvious answer that everyone knows that. But outside of the blueback herring, is there any other type of I guess, foreign forage that changes a fishery more than a blueback herring does?
Blueback herring changes it a lot. The northern lakes have changed, just like you said. You can't take the goby out because that's a big change in all those northern bodies. So that'd be kind of the next big one. But I don't know of a lot that has changed over time. That I can think of.
Like a fathead chub gets introduced, and now all the fish flock to the flathead chub spawning grounds in the spring or something. Nothing like that.
Yeah, probably the other one that I can think of, Matt, is the alewife. And when the alewives got introduced into the TVA lakes, I lived through that change in the 1980s when I lived in Tennessee. Used to fish Dale Hollow all the time with some of the really good guys there, Billy Westmoreland and all those guys. And the alewife changed it. And that's when I first learned to fish deep, because that alewife was a lot like a herring. They 45, 50-foot bait fish in the wintertime. And it moved those smallmouth, while I was fishing it. Dale Hollow used to have a ton of smallmouth in the 10 to 15-foot range. and you could get to those big smallmouth all the time. But when the alewives got thick in Dale Hollow, it moved them deeper and deeper. And then, we were catching them out of 40 feet, and we had never, heard anything like that. I hadn't in my life. So, and that's with 6-pound mono. You can set the hook in 40 feet of water with 6-pound mono, and you can't even move this rattle trap.
Yeah, well, you have the Shaughnessy hook, so you're sticking them all.
That's the difference. I mean, that's how I hooked them. Yeah.
All right. On the instant feedback, Frank in Michigan wants to know: are you going to go all in and try and win every single event this year, or are you going to go a little bit more conservative, play it safe, and fish for points?
For me, and it's a personal choice, but for me, to be a great tournament angler, obviously wins are big, and I have 5 or 6 made tour level wins, but I want to be a good angler again. I want to be competitive, which means I want to be in all the tournaments, and so probably more conservative than the all in. Let's see if you can win 1 or 2 this season. I'd like to be competitive. I'd like to go back to the Bassmaster Classic. And then given the chance, on Sunday, that's when you try to win. But I want to try to compete. I want to, because to me, that's one of the most fun parts about our sport is consistency. Angler of the Year, is the angler's trophy. The Classic is the media's trophy. That's and so every angler is very proud to have competed consistently. It's that total body of work. If Nick Saban was talking about it, that Angler of the Year is your total body of work, and it's a lot to be proud of.
Very cool. I don't think I've ever asked you this, Boyd. Are there too many people in the Bassmaster Classic? Should the number be smaller?
You don't want it to be big. Yeah, I think that that it's more prestigious to be smaller. I think the number 30 would be the number myself. I think we should have 30 anglers, and without getting into a detailed argument about where they come from, because there's several avenues to get there. You could split that up, and if you wanted to take 20 off the tour and 10 from all the other places. If that's what you wanted to do. I'm not a big fan of taking anyone to the Classic that isn't your highest level angler. That's just my opinion. I know that it's valuable it helps the Federation exist to have people that get there. It's monetarily, it affects bass to be able to take winners and put them in the Classic, and it fills the opens, and I get all the business model of that. But for the purity of the sport, in my opinion, it's just one guy's opinion, I think the top 30 anglers in the world should be there. And that would be your tour level guys. And I'd take the top 30 guys, and that's all I'd have. And, that's just my opinion. It doesn't make it right. But
I know. That's why we're asking. Should it be 4 days, just like an Elite Series event?
I don't mind the 3-day tournament. I think the 4 days with the Elite Series, because we have such a big field, allows you to cull down and then kind of get more serious on Saturday and Sunday when there's only 50 boats and 12 boats. So I think if you had 33 days is plenty. I'm a big fan of those smaller fields, of high level anglers. I mean, obviously with the creation of Major League Fishing and all the things that we do there, right. You can see that I believe in those things. But, I just think that brings an intimacy to the sport. It allows the anglers to compete against each other instead of such a big, gray mass crowd, just makes the sport, to me, better.
All right, let me ask you this. The Elite Series going into its 12th year. Is that right, Matt?
13th, 2006, I believe.
Yeah, 13th year, 12 or 13, I can't remember. Which one is it, Matt?
I don't know, it came in 2006. So
okay, 12th year. Yeah. 12th year, is that right?
They're going into the 13th year. Going into its 13th year. I just counted on my hands, on my fingers.
Some fancy ciphering there. All right. Are we at a point in time from an Elite Series standpoint to where there are so many champions out there that have the blue trophies that we could not have a great event that just features only the guys that have won blue trophies? Is that something that would be viable?
I think it would be. You know, one of the things that we don't have at Bass anymore are those special events like the majors and things that cull the field down to the top end of the field. You know, we've sort of taken up the slack at Major League Fishing by taking, you know, a smaller group of high-level anglers, you know, and putting them in those special situations. I would love to see bass be able to, you know, they have to sell it, and you know, and it has to be economically possible. But I'd love to see some majors where you have, you know, current qualifiers where this year's top 20 or top 30 are able to make it to a higher level specialty event instead of the big massive crowds. One of the things that's made it hard to have in bass fishing is we just have too many at the highest level. We simply do. If you had 110 race cars in NASCAR, you wouldn't know who anybody was because it's too many. You'd have somebody different. Nobody could win twice, and except for a few or one or, you know, whatever. And so it's just you know, that would be the ultimate position for the sport. Now I don't want to take away from the Elite Series field. There just needs to be something above that. Needs to be a level above
like
that.
the Super Elite Series.
Exactly.
Like that extra Elite Series.
I've always been a believer, though, if you had an opportunity to showcase everybody that did earn a blue trophy, what a spectacle. And then what you could do is you could actually keep the field, let's say there's 30 spots. And then what you would do is when the guy who is the 30th oldest champion, you rotate him out with one of the new guys to where the field constantly stays at whatever number you establish, 25, 30, whatever that number is. Now not only you have the Bassmaster Classic, but now everybody would be wanting to win that blue trophy.
What is that golf thing? Is that like the Heroes World Challenge or whatever it is where they take – don't they do that in golf where they take all the winners?
No, it's a Tournament of Champions.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Tournament of Champions.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would really like to see, because there are some big, huge name guys.
Bring back Denny.
Yeah, with a very select field of guys that have the blue trophies in their trophy room or living room or office or wherever those trophies are.
Well, you think about what you're saying now. If you had 30 guys, it'd just be the last 30 events.
Yeah, that's 3 years.
So you'd have to win in the last 3 years.
Yeah, I don't know what the number is. I just use 30 because you use 30. Whatever the number is.
I got you.
Whatever the number is.
If you remember, Van Dam's won half of them the last 2 years, so that
point. He has multiple blue trophies.
Yeah,
all
he's probably going to be in it.
Yeah, probably. All right, I want to go back to football real quick, and I'm going to throw it back to bass fishing too. Does UCF, being the only undefeated team, really have a platform to stand on and say, look, man, we did everything that we were asked to do. We're undefeated. We beat Auburn in a big-time game. Why did we not get considered to be a part of the national championship talk? What are your thoughts on that, Boyd?
This has come up several times. And the problem is conference strength of schedule. You know, I can remember when Boise State has been in that situation. There's other teams that have gone undefeated. I think Houston one year was in that conversation. But not being in a Power 5 conference hurts you greatly. The problem is the flip side. The year you pick UCF, if they go, which has happened many times, a lot of times when these non-Power 5 conferences make it, they get crushed. Now you've left out a Power 5 team because they got in. So there's a flip side. There's a big risk in bringing them. Secondly, there's economics involved for the NCAA. And the Power 5 conferences also have the big fan bases, which create the giant TV ratings and the giant stands. So that's a factor. I mean, make no mistake, college football is a huge multi-billion-dollar business. So that's another issue.
Could they not make a ton of money if they opened it up to 8 teams rather than 4, though?
Yeah, you could. The argument in college athletics is that it's you're working these kids even further than you would have. You'd have to revamp it. You could make 8, but you would have to use the conference championships as entry. But you'd also have to weight them, because now you have if you can't bring the winner from the WAC and knock out second place out of the SEC. I picked that this year because the SEC caught all kinds of heat this year for being weak. That's all I saw on ESPN all season. And the 2 teams from the SEC are in the national championship.